Hey fam, welcome to Simplexity, a podcast where we take seemingly complex matters and attempt to make them plain and simple. I am Sammy Foster, joined with my co-host, the one and only Boots.
Boots is here. How you doing?
I'm doing great, buddy. I'm doing great.
I'm talking in third person today, for the record.
Oh, I appreciate
Boots is talking in third person.
And just a little FYI, those hats are forthcoming. Okay. We got enough positive feedback that...
Which means one person and it was
that's
you.
all. Hey, I was going to make them no matter what. But I did get a confirmation, and so they are at print as we speak.
Perfect.
Can't say that, for certain, but I trust that...
So that was just a lie right there. They're at print as we speak.
Watch your mouth.
Okay. I'm going to take a step back now.
But today is a special day. Be the fact that it's one that I've been looking forward to for some time now because we have a special guest. And I would say he's a man that stands in an arena all by himself, a dear friend of mine, and one that I trust is going to prove to be incredibly helpful and insightful. And that is the one and only David Orso. It is so good to have you, my man.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm a big fan. I'm a simplexiter.
Oh, yes. Yeah, and he died a little bit inside saying that, the word simplexiter.
No,
but
I love what you're doing. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, man. The honor is ours. And the reason that we have Dave with us today is because we're going to sort of delve into what, let me just say as a disclaimer from the front end, this is uncharted territory for Boots and I'll speak on your behalf as well. You. Because what we want to sort of unpack is this idea around generational economics, or I would say the better way of saying it would be the buying patterns that we're seeing in this upcoming generation, even present generations that are different from the past that lead to, I would say, the pandemic of debt and struggle and anxiety that so many people are dealing with in this current era. And so
slightly out of our wheelhouse, perhaps.
Yeah.
They're like, am I watching an economic forum?
Yeah,
right.
But I think that it's so encompassing. It covers so much of why we buy, how we buy, what the drivers are. And the reason that David is with us is because David is not just a real estate agent, but a premier real estate agent in Anne Arundel County. You are part of, am I right for saying
Berkshire Hathaway.
Yep. And let me just do this for a moment. I want to read David's bio, and I form fit this. So at any point that I botch this, just go.
I'll jump in.
Yeah, please do.
Take that back.
So your agency has represented close to 1,300 clients. 150 of those clients have made purchases, real estate purchases over $1 million, $600 million in volume sold. Mm-hmm. When it comes to you personally, you have your degree in psychology. You have your MBA in strategic marketing. You went to Harvard Law Schools of prominent program in negotiation.
Yep.
Wow.
You wrote a book published called Step Inside, The Unfiltered Truth About Listing and Selling Your Home.
Yep.
Incredible. I haven't read that book, but I plan on it.
Yeah.
Can you get that on Amazon?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Right next
And
to
if you're having trouble sleeping, it'll put you right out.
You can get David's book on Amazon along with some others.
Yeah, what else can you get there?
I digress. You, one of the things, your family, correct me if I'm wrong, has given over $500,000 to various charities and programs that are passion points of yours. Yep. 100% of the proceeds from your book also go to the Anne Arundel County Medical Center breast cancer.
Yes.
You are a father of 3, married to Dawn. How long now?
18 years.
18 years. You are on, check this out, Boots. Mm-hmm. The Orso family is on various boards and organizations, the Building Tradition Society Board of Directors. What exactly is that?
Anne Arundel Medical Center. It's a young professional board for the hospital.
Okay. The Pediatric Council at Anne Arundel County Anne Arundel Medical Center. The Visit Annapolis and Anne Arundel County Chairman's Advisory Committee. the Broadneck Area Youth Sports Program, and the Severna Park Community Center, where you are the chairman of the board.
I had been last year.
That's
my last year being chairman.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. Anything I leave out there?
Well, I think the thing that you leave out, and this is so common, and I think that this is a topic we're going to cover today, is those are all my successes, right? I mean, that is a resume.
Right on.
The thing that's left out is that in 2006, between 2006 and 2008, I went flat broke. I went flat broke. And as we talk about money today, it took me a couple years to be honest about that reality.
Wow.
And because I would prefer that you talk about the top line revenue, that you talk about giving, that you talk about all the image-based things. But the truth is that situation, I had overinvested in real estate. I was buying more properties than I could afford. The market turned downward. I wasn't mature enough or experienced enough to adjust or know how to handle it. I was ill-equipped. I wasn't liquid enough to handle it, so I went flat broke. And rather than that defining me, it refined me, what I found. And as you get older, you can see God's hand in crisis, right? And that was a crisis situation. And I want to openly talk about that today. And I really think that that's more important than the accolades, the things that I've successfully done, because they've only happened because of that event. And I'm not sure they would have happened had I not gone broke, which is the interesting thing. And for anybody listening that is broke, it's a terrible place to be. I mean, you feel like you're drowning.
Yep.
And it's very interesting because there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of, you're posturing as a player, but in reality, you're broke.
Yeah.
In reality, you have to sell your house and move in with your parents. That was something we had to go through. In reality, you have to tell the truth to your wife, and I think a lot of people don't. And it's a marital cancer. We all know that finances are something that break up marriages. And the reality is there's nowhere to get help. There really isn't a place where you go and say, hey, I have no money. Can you help me? Because if you have a lot of money, there's a lot of financial advisors that would love to help you. Right?
I'll help you with that.
Right. So you show up with $5 million and they say, well, let's help you with that. So the shame and the guilt, and you're usually late to resolve the issues, if you ever resolve the issues. So resigning from a country club, trading in luxury vehicles. So when you go from having millions of dollars to zero, it accompanies an emotional journey.
Wow.
And I think the headline of your podcast, Simplexity, is perfect because money is tactical. Money is very simple. It's very tactical. What's complex about it is the emotional side that pollutes the simplicity of money management, of being honest about where you are, of planning with your spouse, a game plan, and managing emotions that sometimes can lead you to making bad decisions or buying things that, frankly, you shouldn't buy, you can't afford. And the problem is you can do that in an instant, but it could take years to get out of that problem. So that's really, I appreciate the introduction.
Sure.
I'm proud of my career. But what has refined me and made me an amazing professional is the hardship.
Well, Dave, I think that is such an incredible redemptive story. And I think be the fact that you did not lay down on your hardship, the crisis that you endured, and you let it rather refine you than define you. I think that is such a wind at somebody's back that now is listening to this, certainly those that I've spoken to that have said all of the exact same things that you just said concerning, I feel like I can't breathe, I can't sleep at night, I feel like I am drowning, I see no light at the end of the tunnel, I don't know what to do, where to go. And yet, man, you have allowed God to use that and redeem that story in you. You're the perfect one that then can speak to it. You're not sitting in an ivory tower that made all right decisions, got through unscathed, but no, your hardship has now really forged your perspective, which is the very reason I wanted to have you on, so that you can help those that may have been sort of culturally groomed or even emotionally led into some of the decisions that they're making right now that's leading to this pandemic of debt that people are so enslaved to. So, man, I say kudos to you, brother. I've gleaned a ton from you. Your vulnerability and transparency is I really believe it's sort of your ministry. Oh. It's not just your successes, but it's the why behind your successes. Isn't it Michael Jordan that said that he failed forward? Something to that degree. Okay, maybe not. Anywho, but
fact check.
You don't want to fact check that one. But when it comes to that, what are you seeing in present when it comes to these buying patterns, those that are acquiring real estate that may have a diversity generationally? Does that make sense?
Yeah, so I think that we're in an on-demand culture, right? So when we were growing up, you literally had to go to Marley Station Mall to buy something. So there was this hesitation before you made a purchase. You had to think before you went to Britches and bought a whole new wardrobe, right?
Right.
And there are a lot of steps in between too. Yeah. It's not quite as instantaneous.
And that's what I'm finding is that, and the data supports it. So in preparation for this, I looked into some facts and data. A third of Americans that are working, this isn't even the homeless group, a third of Americans that are working have saved $0 for retirement.
Wow.
55% of Americans are behind on where they should be for their retirement savings. So they're prioritizing their money incorrectly, right? And it's very simple. You don't spend more than you make, but people are spending more than they make. It's out of line. And I think what you're trying to get at is, why is that happening? What is going on here? And I think that we've got a culture that is comparative, that is looking at each other and saying a little bit of, I got to keep up with them.
Yep.
And money is something we just don't talk about culturally.
Right.
I would be uncomfortable asking either of you, what do you make?
Yeah.
More uncomfortable saying, how's your retirement looking? And those are conversations that maybe we should have in a safe environment where there is camaraderie. But it's this on-demand culture, I think, that is driving expenses above revenue.
Yep.
There's only two parts to money: what comes in and what goes out.
Totally.
So it is very simple.
Yep.
Your expenses are exceeding your revenue.
Totally.
If you were a business.
Yep.
And I think the thing that troubles me is I see the dishonesty among couples where they're not really on the same page.
Wow.
And that's a divide.
Yep.
Right? And it's a dirty secret. It's a dirty secret. And it's something that needs to be resolved in the marriage from the break, from the beginning. And maybe this shows up in your counseling. Maybe this is something you talk about. In recovery from going broke, what I found was save 15% of your revenue. So if you make $100,000, you save $15,000 and spend the rest. And spend the rest.
Right.
Dave Ramsey is an absolute perfect resource for anybody that is looking for a plan, that is looking for a guide. Yep. I would point them to Dave Ramsey, who is a debt-free guy. Yep. Right. So I see a lot of bad habits. I meet with a lot of clients that are just way over leveraged. So.
What would you say to the idea that, yes, we do live in a culture that's instantaneous, that you don't have to wait, and so you don't have to have a lot of, method in your thought when it comes to, should I buy this? Is this long-term beneficial? Can I afford this? And all of the calculus that goes into that. What would you say about, we also live in a culture that's very image-driven right now in comparison to maybe, generations past? We live in an Instagram culture. So everything that you have is seen, and everything that you have is also added, a veneer to and a polish to. So it makes it look like, nobody's putting their behind the scenes reel. Everybody's putting their highlight reel out in the front. And that even drives or compounds this competitive culture that we live in. Now you all the more trying to keep up with the Joneses. You're trying to vacate like those that, are flexing it online, all of this type of stuff. And now, I think it was you and I that had this conversation about gone is the day rather of where people are like looking for fixer-uppers to make their residence.
Right.
They're looking for fixer-uppers possibly to flip, but it was told me from the jump, hey, Paul, your first house is going to be a fixer-upper. You got to put some sweat equity into it. You got to buy low. You got to fix it up yourself. Hopefully, build some equity that you're not buying above appraisal or paying more than it's worth. And even if you can't have the mansion on the hill, you got to have a starting point. It's almost like people want to start with the mansion on the hill, all because they're trying to prop the image. Would you agree with that?
Oh, 110%. So, in what I do in practice is help people buy and sell real estate.
Right.
And typically there is some sort of status associated with the purchase. And what I would say as it relates to money challenges, if you're trying to lead your family, are you concerned about status or are you concerned about safety? So money, you need to start, I would suggest to the listeners, make a different association to money. It's not for status, it's for safety and security of your family first.
Wow.
That's what a true leader of their family should be thinking. So what does that mean? That means, obviously, safety means I'm going to buy in a decent neighborhood that's safe. Mm-hmm. I'm going to buy in a good school district. All of those fundamentals. What I'm finding is they're sort of trickling behind the status things like, I want 9-foot ceilings and a big open kitchen and outdoor living space and all this other stuff that are secondary, maybe tertiary, to a fundamental decision to be safe and secure financially. And when you mention the word generational, that's what your kids need to learn.
Wow.
That's what if you want to be a proud grandparent and you want to see that your decisions have affected the next generation of your family tree, it needs to start with you. You need to own it. Wow. And that's also one of the problems with money is typically when you get in trouble, it's your fault.
Yeah.
It's your fault.
Right.
I also went through a cancer battle, and it was amazing the level of empathy that I received when I had cancer because it wasn't my fault.
Huh.
And I had a team of doctors. I had a team of people helping me. But when you go broke, you got to look in the mirror and say,
wow.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I did this. Mm-hmm. This wasn't arbitrary. It's my fault. And nobody's going to get me out of this. There's no doctor coming along to say, let's make these moves financially.
Wow.
You got to do it yourself. You made your mess. You got to clean it up. So what happens in real estate is, big houses, big bills.
Wow.
So that the other thing that creeps into a bad housing decision is a bigger BG&E bill, a bigger landscaping bill, a bigger window replacement bill, a bigger roof repair bill. And although possibly qualified to purchase that house, they're not thinking ahead to what are the long-term costs of owning that house. And a house is a liability. Robert Kiyosaki in his famous book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, makes this point. A house is a liability, not an asset. Anytime it's a fixed expense, that's a liability.
Wow.
And if you think you're buying a house, and I hear that term, and it's one of those, people will say, they get stuck on people using the wrong words, right? That's one of those things for me. You're not buying a house. You're getting into a banking relationship. You own 10 or 20% of that house. The bank owns 80. And if you don't believe me, try not making a payment and see what happens.
Good,
You're
man.
not the owner of that house unless you pay cash.
Right.
And hardly anybody pays cash for a house.
No doubt.
Speaking to the fixer-upper concept a little bit, I think Sammy has only purchased fixer-uppers.
I think you're right.
And I think you will continually be buying fixer-uppers into your late 90s, probably. You'll be over there with a hammer, and I'll be walking over. You sure you're okay to do this, my friend? But yeah, there's so much wisdom in what you're saying, that the control of emotion. I want to delve into that a little bit, if we could, because you mentioned how money is strategy, really, and it's the management of emotion. When it comes to being image conscious, what are some of those emotions at play that you see in some of these people that you interact with?
I mean, automobiles are very obvious, right? So if you can't pay cash for a car, you shouldn't buy it. And an interesting statistic that I had was the top 5 cars driven by millionaires: Toyota, Honda, Ford, Lexus, Subaru.
Incredible.
The mindset of a millionaire, he or she doesn't care what you think about his Toyota.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Right? They
Yeah.
don't care. You're like, why is he driving a Toyota? And I get this all the time. People can quickly do math on 100 million of sales in a year. They're like, oh, 3% of that is a couple $1 million. Why is he driving a 7-year-old Suburban? I don't care.
Wow.
Because
Right.
the only person that I report to is my own family. It's my family. So there has to be a mental detachment from the status symbol. You have to, and I know this is like toxic masculinity, but it's just a term. You have to man up. You
Right
have
on.
to man up and
Yep.
say, who do I serve and what do I need to do to serve them at the highest level? And people are too often serving the general public.
Yeah.
They're serving pictures on Instagram. They're serving a Facebook community that doesn't care back.
Totally.
They don't care back, but they'd rather go and they get swindled into a car payment or they get swindled into a lease agreement and they're not ready for it. So until they surrender to the concept that debt is bad and there is a way to be financially peaceful. And what would that look like? What would that feel like? Not only for yourself, but for your partner and for your children and the energy in your household. As it relates to housing, Sammy's smart. He's buying the worst house in the best neighborhood. And we've heard that for generations, right? Buy the worst house in the best neighborhood. Locally, there's a lot of really bad houses. So we're at a turning point where the genre, meaning most houses were built in the 70s and 80s, is pretty deplorable, right?
Huh.
We got some ugly inventory.
Right.
So it's fairly binary right now in the housing industry that you've got homes that are fixed up and you can pay a premium for those and they're like record-breaking neighborhood sales. You can be that person. Or you can buy grandma's house, a baby boomer's house, who's 80, is taking great care of it, but cosmetically, it's embarrassing.
Right.
It's embarrassing. And you've got to tear up the floors and redo
Yep.
the kitchen and tear out the bathrooms and open up the floor plan. Not many people are ready for that sweat equity. They're looking for the housewarming party on, Sunday when they closed on Friday.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It is a pretty incredible thing, man, that we've been groomed to purchase things that we can't really afford, to impress people that we really don't know, ultimately to win the votes of people that we don't even like. It's a really terrible way of making purchase decisions. But David, one of the things that you said when we were talking a few weeks ago, you made the comment that so often it discourages you to see people or interface with whether it be a client or somebody, and yet everything they have is visible.
yeah.
Unpack that idea.
Yeah, so, without compromising confidentiality of any of my
Absolutely.
clients, it's frustrating to me because I know the emotions behind it. When I approach a home and they've got several cars, BMWs, they got stickers for elite private schools, they got a boat, they got a country club membership, they have a huge house. And in discovery, when I'm talking to them, I find out that's everything they've got. So I can see everything they have. Wow. And there's something sexy about holding back a little bit. Let them find out about you.
Yeah.
And what do you have that I can't see? And I also deal with a lot of really wealthy individuals who act very differently, because they have an enormous amount that you can't see.
Wow.
So what happens
good,
with the
man.
folks that are presenting everything that they have to the world, they're forced into making compromised decisions. And that's where they say, well, I need to get $2 million for my house. And I say, well, it's only worth 1.5. I got to get $2 million. All my equity's in the house. And it's similar to somebody saying, well, I reinvest in my business. Okay, that means you don't have any money. Okay, that means you don't have any free capital. All right. So if you think your house is an asset and you need to get $2 million, then you don't have anything I can't see. That's problematic, not only for the real estate matter, it's problematic for the marriage. It's problematic. You don't have an emergency fund. Real estate is illiquid. You can't get to the equity. So there are going to be problems. And sometimes I lean back and I think, you don't need Dave Orso right now. You need Susie Orman. You need Dave Ramsey, right? And you may need counseling to get on the same page about what it's going to take. And that's omnipresent. That's omnipresent in our community. It's omnipresent for me professionally. I'm seeing it. Statistically, it is all over. I mean, just Google any statistics, and you're going to find that we are a society that isn't saving. We are spending.
So, David, is that the bulk of the clients that you work with that you would put in that category of everything that they have essentially is on display?
Yeah, I think that one of the reasons why I feel competent to have this discussion is because I deal with such a diverse population. So my practice is primarily from Annapolis through Pasadena. And when I'm called, there's something going on. It's a job change. It's a marital change. It's the family's growing, the family's shrinking. So typically what I work hard to do is understand what that change is, which positions me more as an advisor than it does just a real estate agent that's here to transact. One of the luxuries I have is I don't really need to sell that house, right? So I've been so successful in 20 years, humbly, that I'm in a position where I can help somebody make a really good decision. And I'm not influenced by my need to get a commission check. So the diversity of what I see is I've lost my job and I can't make any more mortgage payments, or I've had a liquidation event. I've sold my company and I want to move on to the water, right? So I think I'm seeing, hearing, and understanding a variety of issues,
Yeah. Yeah. If I can ask one more follow-up, and then
You certainly can.
I cede my time to the pastor. So based off what you were saying of just the people who, again, have everything on display from the stickers to the cars to the big house, to me, that screams exactly the opposite of what you said of I don't care mentality. I wrote that down when you said it. That's kind of the mentality you have. I don't care what you think of my car. Like my priority is the safety and security of my family. It's not status or image. Maybe this is getting too practical for the time being, but my question is, how does one get from the overly image conscious mentality step by step or in a big shift to the I don't care mentality?
It's a great question.
I think it starts in the home. I genuinely think it starts with putting the blinders on. The horse with the blinders always wins, right? You've got to put the blinders on and stop looking around. Stop spending so much time looking at your neighbor and start spending more time focusing on your house and your family. And, you know, I'll hear things or I'll see like jacked up dudes that act like Rip from Yellowstone. And the minute someone looked at their wife, they decapitate them. But they're not acting the same way when it comes to finances. How about you be that aggressive? How about you be that jacked when it comes to taking protective?
Yeah.
When it comes to the safety and security of your family's financial future. So it is difficult. It was humbling for me. I think that it starts with a deep conversation with your partner. There's an interesting statistic from the United States Census that women are saving twice as much to their male counterparts.
Wow.
So women and men that are making the same, that are in similar jobs, are saving twice as much as their male counterparts. So, you know, we hear guys complaining about the Amazon packages and I can't get my wife's spending under control. I'd say I'll fact check that. I'll fact check that because more than likely, according to the United States Census, you're the problem.
Wow.
Okay. So I think that in the home, there needs to be an agreement that we're going to follow a plan. I'll go back to what Dave Ramsey has. He has what are called baby steps. And the baby steps start with creation of an emergency fund. Second step is having 3 to 6 months money on reserve. The third step, and I wrote it down here somewhere, invest 15% of your household income into retirement. Next step, save for your children's college fund. Pay off your home early. So the more focused you get on what you should be doing, there's going to be like a dissolution of the distractions. It's just going to dissolve. You're going to stop caring. But it starts with being focused on something, and it really helps if you're engaged with your partner in this strategy, in this tactic. And I think you'll find joy and happiness. The couples that I work with that aren't on the same page, man, it's tense. It's tense. The couples that are on the same page, it's delightful.
Yeah.
So in pursuit of peace, in pursuit of strategy, get on the same page with your partner, really start tending to your own home. And I think that more focus and energy, time will just start passing.
Yeah.
Where you're like, I didn't even look at Instagram this week. That's cool. He's got that car, but you know what? I bet he can't afford it.
Yeah.
And you start understanding almost from an objective perspective, looking from the outside in, that your neighbor's struggling. And hopefully the hierarchy would be, maybe I could help him.
Yeah. Wow. What a shift.
Maybe I could have a conversation with him or grab coffee and say, how you doing?
Yeah.
How are things going? I've done the following in my life, and what I have found is whatever. So reach out once you've reached a better place.
Yeah.
Man, I just think that's the crux of it right there. You just said it. It's about arriving to a place of where you do have, happiness within the home. You are at peace with what you have, grateful for the provision that God's given you, while at the same time, the harmony now that you're experiencing, all because you have a unified front, husband, wife, doing the dang thing, driving in the same direction, and really agreeing upon, hey, this is what we want our life to be like. And the outworking of that is really, I think, what everybody is looking for. Truth be told, when people buy these houses or envision themselves having the housewarming party or being able to put their home on blast on Instagram, they really think this is going to satisfy me. This is what's going to make me happy. Right. And really, it always remains elusive. It's a mirage. It never materializes. And yet I've watched your life. I've watched, that you going through the hardship that you have. One thing that I love about you is you live life to the full. You love good food. You love being outside. You love being with your family. You love engaging and entertaining friends. You live a robust life. And I think it's really rooted in gratitude. One, due to the hardship. Two, rooted in you're balanced. You're not trying to keep up, or you're not trying to portray something that you're not. You're vulnerable, you're honest, you're humble, while at the same time, man, you're within your means. Yeah. And I think when, not to cut you, did you want to speak? I just think that's the big driver of this conversation, is that what we're seeing, and from my seat, I speak to so many that either come to me over whether it be marital problems, heightened anxiety, bouts of depression. And one of my foremost questions that I'll ask from the onset, hey, tell me where you're at financially. And without hesitation, I hear it so often, oh man, I'm in shambles. Yeah. My father used to say, when, poverty comes in the front door, love goes out the back. It's so true, man. So much of the marital, dysfunction that I experience is really rooted in financial stress. Yeah. And they think they can just circumvent that and be in one accord and be lockstep, when in fact they're pulling in different directions financially. Yeah. And that's many times the root cause of so much of their anxiety. And so, man, I think what you're saying is right on the money.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. My wife and I fundamentally agree that we're going to first save 15% of our top line. Period, end of story. We also agree that we're going to contribute 10% of our top line to charity, to whatever we deem necessary and needed. The rest we have decided to invest in experiences. So my parents always told me, invest in experiences. And, I think both my wife and I are cancer survivors. And when you walk that line and you realize the fragility of life, once you get past, what do I do with the money? How do I save it? How do I assume I'm going to live to be 80 or 90 years old and I care about my grandkids? Then you start living the YOLO life, right? And that's kind of what I think this generation is obsessed with, YOLO. You can totally be YOLO with the money after 15%.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what defines YOLO is up to you. It could be a camping trip. It could be, international travel, whatever it is. but your budget is what's left, right? And you can do amazing things with that. And I'd encourage everybody to live big after the 15%.
Right.
Live
on.
big, experience life,
Yep. Totally.
and don't create fixed expenses, a mortgage, an energy bill, that prohibit living life big.
Absolutely.
YOLO in boundaries.
YOLO and boundaries. Well said.
I don't think anyone would repeat that phrase. It's not very catchy.
And a planned YOLO.
Plan
Yeah.
YOLO.
A planned YOLO.
That's
Right.
good.
So one thing my wife and I talk about is there is this term called misogi. And in Japanese culture, it is you do something one time a year that purifies your soul. It's so meaningful that you will think about it for the next 365 days. So what is that? What is that for you, right? It could be for somebody listening, I'm going to get my financial house in order.
Right.
And 2023 was the year that I got my finances under control. That was my misogi. What is that? Is it physical fitness? Like, I'm going to run a marathon. I don't know. But headline your year.
Right.
2023 was the year that I did X, and it was a life-changing event, and then I think about it. So we invest deeply in a big life experience each year.
What's this
So
year?
YOLO, this year we're going to Paris and London. We're doing a 2-week international trip with our kids.
Misogi.
So that's a misogi. And
Can I hear last
and then
year's?
it'll be it's yearbook worthy.
Yeah.
So we'll have a yearbook, and they'll flip through pages and look at it and talk about it and remember it.
Wow.
Be exposed to another culture, and obviously we have really neat things planned within that trip. We have saved for that trip. We are not putting it on a credit card. We're paying for it.
Wow.
Done.
Yeah.
And it's a gift.
I'd
that
like to
we're-
be part of your family.
You are. You are, man.
Amen.
You are.
Amen. Enough to go to
So
Paris?
I think that we're not there yet, buddy. maybe a couple years down the road.
Keep cultivating, brother.
Amen. Keep sowing. Maybe you'll reap
But I
it.
think YOLO too often is related to impulsivity.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'll take the trip tomorrow.
Yeah. You only live once.
Slow down, man. Ride the brake for a second.
No doubt.
Slow down. Plan your year. Plan a big event. Plan intermediate life-changing events, cool things. We live near DC. Go see a show. Build a life that's yearbook worthy, that you could lay out 2023 and check it out. And I don't think there's many people that are employed that couldn't do it, that just couldn't do it. And they'll make every excuse. That's prioritization.
That's right.
That's a life well lived.
Amen.
It's better than sweet cars, the country club membership, a boat, a house I can't afford. They're fleeting.
Yep.
Those things are fleeting.
Yeah.
That car is going to be 2 years old in no time.
Right on.
But that life experience, that investment, and the piece that this trip's paid for, it's already paid for. We're going to be totally immersed and present in that event.
Man,
In that event. And I'm not crying about the expense. I'm not saying, oh my God, in August our credit card's going to be $20,000. Like,
Yeah.
it's paid. It's done. I'm there. I have harmony.
Yeah. This is great, but how am I going to make this work?
Yeah.
later?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I like how you refer to it as a yearbook. Yearbook memory, yearbook. I forget the phrase.
And I did this exercise with my team, and I called it the YOLO yearbook.
Oh.
And it was, let's plan the next year. And the vision is that you can create a Snapfish or Google Photos book. And in that book are amazing memories with really great people.
Yeah.
Wow.
You got to work hard to plan that. And, one of the things I learned on my journey, specifically with cancer, if you think about the last 365 days, Boots, how many days do you really remember?
That's right.
How many days do you actually remember?
Yeah.
If I had a wall calendar, you might remember 15 or 20 days,
Yeah.
right? That's sad that we're just moving through life. And people that are financially strapped may only remember 1 or 2 days, and they may not be good memories.
Oh.
So my goal and my vision is at the end of the year to have a YOLO yearbook, a book that I'm proud of where I have experienced life deeply, and I remember those days. I remember seeing my daughter's eyes when she looked at the Eiffel Tower. That's a vision, right?
Yeah.
I remember having deep conversations about, maybe you'll study abroad. What would that look like? Creating that for my family. But I'm not sure you get to that place until you really have control of your profit and loss statement.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
But even the idea of a yearbook underpins your mentality of this is about us. It's not about them. Like you don't walk around and brag and show people your yearbook.
No.
Yeah.
No.
That's not Instagram worthy. It's you go to a yearbook to reflect on good memories of your people, your classmates, your family, like etc. That's not something. It's not about them. It's about us, and that's exactly what you were talking about earlier.
Just as an aside,
100%.
when it comes to yearbooks,
Uh-oh.
this triggers a really upsetting thought within me. But when I was being brought up, we were so broke that I could never afford the yearbook of my year. So
Your
you know what I had
graduating
to do? I had to buy the yearbook of the year previous. So in 9th grade, I had to buy a yearbook. Yeah, Beck, you should shed a tear over this. I had to buy the yearbook of the year before of a whole bunch of people I didn't even know.
So no one wrote, "Have a great summer."
Did you get it signed?
Yeah, I would take
Stay
care
cool,
of it.
Sammy.
I wasn't even in the yearbook.
Sammy shows up on the first day of school. Could you guys sign my year? Hey, buddy.
How pathetic is that?
That's awesome.
Pop,
That's a great
I
story.
love you. God rest your soul. But one of the things, Dave, that I think that you're saying that I just want to spotlight is, from my seat, again, we sit in two totally different arenas. I'm in the church world listening to people, that are pursuing Jesus, trying to find peace and hope and harmony within their home. And so often, little do they know, their dysfunction or lack of harmony is rooted in their spiritual deficit. Their spiritual deficit, meanwhile, is being pursued while at the same time they're tethered to so many things that they thought would satisfy them, fulfill them, that they come to find were really counterfeits, and you just sort of itemized those things. They thought the car with the $700 a month note, would really satisfy this deep chasm in their soul, or the house, or being able to do certain things, even if it be on a credit card. And I think that it was Larry Burkett. He was actually the founder of a ministry called Money Matters that has since been taken over by Dave Ramsey. But he always used to say, you cannot be spiritually free while at the same time financially bound. And
Say that again.
You can't be spiritually free while at the same time financially bound. I say that
so
to
true.
myself so often, and Ruth and I reiterate it to one another whenever it comes to a big decision or a purchase or looking at the long view. We want to be spiritually free. I want to be free in life, to have experiences. And I think you said it so beautifully, that not just being able to maybe put the experience on a credit card, because if you do, you can't be present. Right. Like Boots said, you're then thinking, man, this credit card bill come August is going to be through the roof. So you're already 2 weeks down the road trying to figure out how you're going to rob Peter to pay Paul, to then pay for what you're trying to experience now. That is bondage. Mm-hmm. That is such a poor, terrible way to live life. When, in fact, if you conclude all through the scriptures, and really specifically the Gospels, Jesus spoke about the matter of money almost more than any other issue. It was money. Why? He knew that you cannot, he would say, you cannot serve both God and money. You're either going to be enslaved by the one and hate the other. But what he was ultimately speaking to was, I want you free. He wasn't even browbeating them to give the money. Jesus didn't need their money. Like you said earlier, he was saying, I just don't want you bound, enslaved to the lender. And so I think that principle is at the center of Christianity. And it's at the center of Jesus's message when he said, I've come that you would have life and have it to the full. So much of that is found in freedom. And money actually works counterproductive to that so often when we allow it, and we don't drive it, we allow it to drive us. And I just think what you're saying, man, is such a picture of what it is to live free, and not only for yourself, so that you can then turn back around and help your brother, your sister, your fellow, man, and say, hey, I want to come alongside of you, man, and I want you to experience freedom, and to be able to do so from a place of, hey, man, I've walked through some hardship. Man, I've got frayed ends because, man, I've endured the fire of what it is to go broke and to outkick my coverage. But really, at the end of the day, the end zone is freedom. And I think people have not understood that freedom is really the prize. I have here so many people, they don't count the soul cost when they make a decision. They just count the monetary cost.
Right.
What will it do to your soul to make that decision? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to argue, peace is so much more valuable than things. And I think inarguably. But
Yes.
people, unfortunately, don't even recognize that. They think if I can line my driveway with big symbols and I can get in that zip code, man, that's going to provide peace. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. It may provide gratitude if you can afford it, but if you cannot, it will rob you of peace and it will ruin your life. And so, man, you are a shining example of how to do it right. And I've gleaned a ton.
And I would just chime in to that and say, to your point of you can't be spiritually free while you're financially bound. This circles back to something you said a little while ago, David, where you said once you start to get outside of the mindset of comparing everything, you start to see opportunities to be, I would say, missional.
Yeah.
In the sense that if you're stuck in the mindset of being financially bound, therefore you're not spiritually bound, therefore everything is about maintaining an image, you care so much. When you see someone's really fancy car, it immediately goes to the comparison game.
Yep.
It never gets to what you said of, I wonder if everything's okay with them.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if I should have a conversation. I wonder if I can be helpful at all. Not to act like you have it all together or anything,
Sure.
but it never even gets there because you're so bound yourself, you can't even see past your own bondage to potentially help someone else.
Right. And I feel deeply that real estate, on a missional level, real estate is my opportunity to connect this community.
Yeah. Wow.
It's just, it's what I do. It's where I have expertise and deep knowledge. But overall, I'm using it to connect our community. And I feel that God trusts me with money now. It's a weird, I really, really feel spiritual about money in the sense that the more I receive, God knows I'm going to redistribute. God, I've proven that. He knows I'm going to be responsible with it. And for that reason, I'm able to have authentic conversations in our community and hopefully start bringing people together to have challenging conversations. But I feel a high level of trust with my God.
Amen, man. Well, one thing, buddy, as we close, I just want to say I so appreciate the way that you love your family and that you love your community. You are an advocate, but you are also an example of what it is to make sure to give back. And I know, like you often say, hey, there's a ton of bad news. I want to be a teller of good news, and I want to make good news. And so, man, for that, I just want to say, what an honor it is to have you with us, and what an example to follow, buddy. You are your struggle has become your ministry, and I think it's benefiting a lot of people. So kudos, my man.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
I love the podcast. Hopefully my audience catches on.
Right on.
You're putting out a really great message. So thank you guys.
Yeah, can we speak to his audience at
Absolutely.
all, perhaps?
And so, yeah, actually, I do want to do that. David himself has an incredible podcast. It's short in nature. It's called Hey Neighbor, where he actually interviews people that are within our area, that be the greater Anne Arundel County area, that are doing incredible things for their community, and you just take your time to spotlight them, the efforts that they're giving. You can also see my man at davidorso.com for all of your real estate needs. He's a great contact, and man, we're blessed to have you.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
I feel a lot smarter.
As I do
I'll tell you that
as
much.
well.
Yep.
That's great.
If you guys enjoyed this episode, though, go ahead and like and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on Instagram as well. And we are on YouTube, Lighthouse Church channel.
We love you guys.